Well, hello everyone, welcome back to Suzerain. It is time. It is time. Also, I forgot to you. I got a loop deck, a Razer branded loop deck, because it was cheaper than the Stream Deck and had more buttons than the Stream Deck Plus. I was using the Stream Deck app, and it was so much easier to configure. Oh my god, the loop deck is such a headache to configure. But I think after a day of using it, um, I think I like the fact that the loop deck has more. I think I like the more buttons than the Stream Deck Plus. I think I'd be limited by the only I think either 6 or 8 buttons in the Stream Deck Plus. Um, uh, this has many buttons. And also, I neglected to use the. I should have used this drop on last episode when I said I was a hardcore Malianavist. Yes, that is the full anthem. No, I will not. Yeah, the drop is the full anthem. I can play it. I can play it for however long I want. So, not gonna play the entire anthem right now. Only when it is appropriate. I also have the Landlord song as a drop. I am these two drops. Playing these two drops is gonna get me so many dislikes. I'm just I'm just predicting the dislikes flowing in from that. Full disclosure, I am not a Maoist. I have the East is Red on the soundboard because I think it's funny, um, and because it's kind of a banger of a song. To be fair, the communist say one thing about authoritarian communists. They do put out some banger anthems. Uh, the USSR anthem and the East is Red are bangers of a song. But yeah, I am not a Maoist. I am not even a Marxist Leninist. I am not a communist, contrary to popular belief. Um, I describe myself. Why am I describing my political beliefs on Suzerain? Yeah, because one of you commented on a video a couple of weeks ago. By the time, well, a week ago, by the time this video comes out, one of you asked if I was an actual leftist. Appar- on a Suzerain video, or if I was just role playing, and apparently the channel name and the image was enough of a clue to whether or not I was a leftist. But yes, I am a leftist. I would describe myself as a libertarian socialist, which is, I guess, it's anarchism light. It's a libertarian socialist with anarcho-communist tendencies. Let's leave it at that. Yeah, I don't call myself an anarchist because I don't believe in ideological purity. My ideology is very pragmatic, but never mind my personal political beliefs. It is time. General quarters, all hands man your battle stations. Rumburg is invading. Uh, Feel free to drop suggestions for sound bites in the comments. I I really want to build on my soundboard. I promise I am not going to abuse it. It will be a tasteful use of a soundboard. I arrived at the Ministry of Defense and entered the war room to discuss the war plans with the general staff. I have never seen this room so packed with people. Every single top ranking general and admiral in Sordland was in attendance. In addition to the military officers, their assistants were spread out around the room. They stopped their chatter immediately and saluted me. Josef was standing over the table, arranging tokens atop an oversized map of Sordland, and Rumberg, he walked up to me and saluted. Mr. President, these gentlemen. The general sat down and I took my seat at the head of the table. I took a look around. General Valken nodded at me. Josef stood up and picked up an extendable pointer from a shelf on the wall. The chattering among the staff began again. Josef extended the pointer and loudly hit the map on the table right in its center. Silence! The room immediately went quiet. Everyone had their attention on Josef. He turned to me. Mr. President, may I begin? Please do. Very well. Everyone in this room has read the reports that the Queen of Rumberg is getting ready for a nationwide speech in 2 weeks. We have credible intel that she will be announcing a declaration of war against Sordland. The Rumbergian troop movements in the last 24 hours indicates that they are bolstering their frontline strength. The time has come. Mr. President, at this point we are sure that they are preparing for a large-scale invasion. To say that I'm worried will be an understatement. That's why we have gathered here today, to discuss what we are going to do. We will make them regret they ever crossed us. That's what we are going to do. How soon will they commence the attacks? Probably immediately after the speech. Judging for their movements and the insider information we have received, we have 2, maybe 3 weeks if we're lucky. There was a collective gasp from some of the general's assistants. How does our military strength compare to theirs? The estimates put their active military personnel at around 900,000 to 1 million. Meanwhile, we have approximately 200,000 soldiers on the ground. We have superior air force, right? As for their air force, our estimates put the numbers of aircraft in their fleet at around 700. We have approximately 410 planes, of which 140 are state-of-the-art jets. Our fleet currently totals up to 60 ships and approximately 60,000 sailors. Fortunately, the main theater of this war will be on land, so the Navy will have a limited impact. I predict that they will try to block our seaports, reducing our trade and disrupt our supplies. Yeah, I think that our Navy would be best deployed in a defensive capacity. Meanwhile, Rumberg has around 110 ships, and according to our latest intelligence reports, high-tech submarines as well. Ah, that is not good. Regrettably, we don't have an estimate of how many submarines they have. The Queen has ensured her royal submarines are under state secrecy. Turns out, thus our intelligence officers are having a hard time spotting them. What about the whistleblower? Doesn't he know anything? He knew about the nukes. Overall, their numbers may seem superior, but I would like to remind everyone that wars are not won with numbers alone. Again, they have nukes. Are we not going to mention that? Joseph glanced over at his general and stopped at Falcon. He shook his head. Give it to me straight. What are the odds of success? Odds of success? Let me tell you something, Mr. President. Rumberg doesn't have any idea what or who they are dealing with. I mean, hopefully, we have a small military, but it's an elite force. I'm really hoping we can get air superiority and win through that. We will destroy their armies and send them back to whatever hellhole they came from. Some of the generals laughed. Rest assured, Mr. President, I am more than confident that we will win. Understand the situation. Good, now we have to talk about our defensive strategy. Let's begin with our land forces. We currently have the First Army deployed at Estort to reinforce the border. This is the place they will most likely attack from. The Second Army is standing by at Laren for a possible assault from the north. The Sixth Army is currently garrisoned at Narbel, waiting orders. Due to the potential of an invasion, all three armies have been undergoing rigorous drills, especially during the past few months. They are prepared to fight and die for their country, Mr. President. You have done well, generals. I mean, it's good that morale. We have high, as we seen last episode, we have high morale, so that is really going to help us. Hopefully, morale is extremely important, and I hope the game takes that into account. No need for flattery, just doing our duty. Now, let's start discussing our path to victory in this war. Our top strategic location is Thornburg, Rumburg's capital and the Queen's residence. Needless to say, if we manage to capture the Queen, the war will end. Can we sneak in special forces? What if she sees Thornburg before we get there? I'm a proud soldier of Sorlin, Mr. President. I'd rather die than give up whole sword to invaders. And I know a prideful person when I see one. If we strike fast, we can capture the capital and the Queen before she comes to her senses. What are the chances of capturing their capital? I mean, doing a beeline for their capitals really sounds like it would trigger them to launch their nukes. But also, a long protracted war would also trigger them to launch their nukes. Decisions. There might be an opportunity to push for Thornburg after we captured Salzburg. But we are ahead of ourselves. We will get to that when we discuss the war plan. Can we still win without capturing the Thornburg? If we can't do that, it will become a war of attrition. Whether we can outlast them depends on our economy, so no. Let's move on. What are the other objectives? Aside from Thornburg, the location that we must capture to even have a chance to win this is Salzburg. I wish I could look at the map while I'm doing this. Salzburg is the intersection of Rumburg's complex railway system. If we take it, we'll have more options on both the offensive and defensive. Another strategic location is Dom. Capturing Dom will prevent us from being surrounded and cut off from the east. It will also reduce the battle line we have to cover with our limited numbers. We do have allies that could aid us, but I see no point. We can fend them off easily. That's ridiculous. We can't fend them off alone. We need help. You are talking about fighting against a million men. A million. Yeah, we need to call the banners. Call our allies to war. We have begun communications already. Now we can make it official. I mean, this should be David should be here to. David should be the one calling the allies, right? At any rate, this is what we are dealing with. Before Joseph could continue, a soldier walked in and handed him a note. Mr. President, David Wishy has requested to join the war planning session. I mean, he should have already been here. Let him in. As you wish. After the soldier left the room, David slowly walked in. He fired off a round of salutes to the generals and approached me. Mr. President. What are you doing here, my friend? I had a feeling my guidance might be needed. Anton, please allow me to assist in the war plans. David, you're a diplomat, not a general. Of course, I lack the military knowledge of our esteemed generals, but I do know people, Mr. President. Especially our own people and our allies. Beneficial though our foreign partners may be, I would still advise you to keep a close eye on them. You're afraid that Martin might backstab us? No, he wouldn't dare. The international repercussion would be far too high. David gracefully motioned for Yosef to step aside. He was now at the head of the table. I'm sure that he will agree to fight by our side. However, depending on our plans and our past interactions with him, his commitments to the war may change. I mean, I would assume you would know our interactions with him. Fuck, because we didn't support him on the Valksland. He's not gonna support us with this. He has a point. It's worth keeping in mind. It's exactly why we shouldn't involve them. I mean, low commitment's better than no commitment? Let us move on to our war strategy. I heard the sound of boots running down the hall. Sergeant runched in, urgently pulled Vulcan aside and whispered in his ear. Colonel's face turned white. He hurried, straightened the lapels on his shoulder. Mr. President, it seems we'll be joined by a very esteemed guest today. It's Sol, isn't it? Who is it? Before Vulcan could answer, the door swung open. Every single man in the room immediately stood bolt upright and saluted. Colonel? Gentlemen? This might not be good. Tarkin Sol was dressed in his old uniform, the insignia of the 6th Army of the Swedish Armed Forces, displayed prominently on his chest. An assistant scrambled to find him a chair. He put aside his cane and sat at the head of the table, whilst the rest of the room stood rigidly at attention. It's an honor to have you here at this time of need, sir. How can this old bones of mine rest while my beloved country goes to war? It is indeed an honor, sir. There is no greater honor than to protect one's nation, Mr. President. At ease, everyone. I don't think the Colonel's war credentials need to be reiterated. Having him here will be of immense help to us, as well as morale booster for our troops. I may not be as fit as I was during my last war, but I remember how the game is played. Colonel, you're too humble. I'm looking forward to working with you, Colonel. He's gonna lead a military coup, isn't he? So am I, Mr. President. You have shown great leadership in times of peace. You're complimenting me? You're complimenting my leadership? I never thought I would hear these words come out of Tarquin Sol's mouth. Let us see how you act in times of war. Shall we get started? Certainly, sir. Joseph paused for a moment before picking his pointer back up. Our first objective is taking Salzburg. What are the plans to take Salzburg? There are 3 options on the table at the moment. One is to simply dig in and endure their first wave of attack, then retaliate after they are weakened. Okay. The second option is to launch a full-scale offensive on Salzburg. We will strike at them hard and fast before they have a chance to draw first blood. That might be the better option, considering we don't have the numbers. Which is insane in my opinion. I mean, if we had, considering the military parade, we don't have the tanks for it. Considering that one of them broke down in the military parade, it might be best to just take the wave and then counterattack once we break their offensive. If we had focused on the military, I think we could do a blitzkrieg style offensive and just move faster than they can react. But if we achieve air superiority, we can break their offensive, and then if we take the air, we win the war. I hope. Which is insane in my opinion. Our third option is to do a pincer attack to wipe out their forces, then march towards Salzburg. That sounds better. In any case, our soldiers in the main armies are well drilled and prepared to carry out any strategy we choose. Have you heard anything from our allies yet? Agnolia will join us in the war. Prime Minister Van Horten contacted us and said that his war target is Dom. Grunberg annexed Dom in the past. It is only natural that they want their ancestral homeland back now. Can they take Dom back on their own? Unfortunately, their chances of success are very low. Honestly, I won't be surprised if Grunberg overwhelms them at the Dom front line. Since we haven't recognized Heliland, the Agnolians are more worried than ever about Valsland invading. I mean, we could deploy the fleets to protect Valsland. The Agnolians will likely leave half of their army defending that goddamn island. That might be a problem. If Grunberg shatters the Agnolian army, they will have access to England and they can flank us from the east. We can also ask them to join us in the pincer strategy. However, that would leave Magnolia vulnerable from a direct attack from Dom, leaving their capital with striking distance of Rumburg. They will need to concentrate their troops if they are to hold out against Rumburg's superior forces. How is digging in and waiting for them to attack a good option? When they launch their initial offensive, our soldiers and tanks will be entrenched in strategic and well-fortified positions. Let them throw their manpower at our impenetrable line of defense. We will grind down their armies that they are so proud of. Their pride shattered, their morale low, and their line disorganized. We will launch an all-out assault to strike the finishing blow. Which makes no sense. You're handing them the time and motivation to come up with a plan to attack us. They outnumber us, Yosef. With this move, you will destroy us, at worst limit the effectiveness of their advantage. We will destroy or at least limit the effectiveness of their advantage. I think the pincer is the best option. We don't even have the manpower to cover the entire border. Yeah, pincer is definitely the option. We don't have enough reserves to fill potential weaknesses. All thanks to you. You were the one who pushed President Rain to remove mandatory conscription. Why can't we can just launch an attack on an assault on Salzburg? If we choose to assault Salzburg, our first step will be to have our bombers strike them on the front line. More precisely at strategic points on the path to Salzburg from Estord. Then our tanks will come in and puncture their defenses at Kremsrad, followed up by our soldiers. After we penetrate their line, we will race for Salzburg, threatening an encirclement of their forces. Which all sounds much easier than it is, especially if our tank's reliability is as good as it was on the parade. Let me remind you that we are butting heads with an army far larger than ours. They can cover weaknesses in their line rapidly, which will leave our troops that are pushing through isolated. It's a weird phrase construction. Our modernized Air Force has the capability to accurately strike at the strategic targets across the battlefield. General Kruger, I want to remind you that you were against modernizing our Air Force at first, now you see its benefits. Gentlemen, stop fucking bickering. I have more important things to do. I simply use the tools I have, Yosef, as any good general would. Tell me more about the pincer attack. We will feint an assault on Krimsrad with the full intention of tricking the enemy. Casualties are expected to a certain extent so that Rumburg does not become suspicious of our real intentions. When they believe they are winning, they will push for Estord. With their confidence so high, they will never expect the 2nd Army from the east and the 6th Army from the west, which are holding their striking positions. At the moment they capture Estord, we will pull the trigger. So we pull a... Jeez, what's... So we sacrifice Estord. That's... I mean, it's... strategically, it's the best option, but politically it's horrible, sacrificing Estord. Our bombers will strike at the logistical hubs behind them, after which we will attack Estord from all 3 sides, destroying the enemy forces. While Rumburg is recovering from its losses, Salzburg will be ripe for the taking. That's the time for us to immediately launch a counteroffensive towards Salzburg and take the city. A modernized army is trained and equipped for such a task. I'm confident that we will achieve complete victory with my strategy. I don't like sacrificing Estord, but it does give us our best chance. Ready to choose our first move. I would suggest that we do not strike Salzburg right away. General Kruger, your confidence and bold strategy are commendable, but a blunt, by-the-book approach is like... by-the-book approach like this will only work if our forces are equal in power. I apologize for my incompetence, sir. You outrank him, motherfucker. However unreliable our allies can be, they can cover our military weaknesses if we utilize our cooperation well. Looking at the plans that have been proposed, I don't see a path to victory by ourselves. What is your decision on the first phase, Mr. President? We need to fight smarter if we are weaker. Let's go with Yosef's pincer plan. Excellent. So we're doomed then. Shut the fuck up, Vulcan. Just admitted your incompetence. The decision is already made, Vulcan. On to our allies then. Meanwhile, Agnolia would be assaulting Dom, creating a second front. Yes, just to be able to take Dom. They cannot afford to assist us. Yosef and I signed the plan documents for the first phase of the war and handed them off to the nearest soldier. So let's assume that at this point we have Tsarberg in our hands. This is just the first step. From our point on, it will be harder since we're going deep into hostile territory. I see two options for us to move forward. We can continue pushing toward Thornburg and capture the Queen, or we turn our attention toward Dom. We risk being flanked from the east with either strategy, but it's a risk we must take. Unfortunately, Anglen and Nargis will be mostly shut down due to the war happening at the border. Most businesses have already begun to flee the city of Latchhaven, which is our primary trade hub, thus our economy will take a big hit to this fact. Our industrial production and trade lanes will be crucial at that point in the war. Our military industrial output is at the highest it's ever been. We won't have a problem providing our armed forces with what they need. Good. At least you have a decent war economy. On the military side, not so much on the economic and civilian side. Financial and civilian side. 3 cheers for the Sordish military-industrial complex. Unfortunately, our trade volume is not enough to support our war effort. We will have to rely on our own production. Any questions, Mr. President? What about our allies? If we choose to push towards Thornburg, it needs to be quick and decisive. It's unwise to take any of our allies with us. We can either have them stay and defend our flank in Salzburg or assault Dom. However, Agnolia's persistence in attacking Dom with or without us brought up some dilemmas. It is all good if they manage to accomplish retaking the city, but I and our generals don't think that they can. If Rumburg armies manage to launch a counterattack through Agnolia from Dom, due to Agnolia failing in taking the city, we will be in big trouble. Salzburg will be surrounded from all northwest and east. We will be practically sitting ducks at that point. They are even requesting more supplies for their siege of Dom. Unfortunately, we barely have enough supplies for ourselves, so that is out of the question. I mean, I think we need to relieve the Agnolian forces. How would we take Thornburg? After Salzburg is taken, the enemy will be in shock and their morale will be low. Hence, opening up a brief window of opportunity for us to march towards Thornburg. However, if we hesitate for even a moment, this window will close. Even worse, the enemy will realize that we are overextending and will try to cut us off. This will leave the bulk of our army isolated in the cold north. Fortunately, our modernized forces have been properly trained and are prepared for exactly such a situation. As much as I want to crush all Rumburgian hope by taking their capital, our doctrine does not include these kinds of rapid advances. To boot, our supply line will be stretched too thin, creating a weak point that can be exploited by the enemy. Why can't we just defend Salzburg from this point on? That is out of the question, Mr. President. It will leave us out in the open and susceptible to Rumburg pincer attack. They can strike us from all 3 directions, northwest and of course east from Dorn. Elaborate the strategy around Dom. Dom and Salzburg are excellently linked logistically. There is a railway between the 2 cities. This will aid us in transporting military supplies and troops. We can easily launch an assault on Dom within half a week after taking Salzburg. With that said, control of the rail system is key because Rumburg can utilize it as well. If they can withstand our assault, they can launch a counteroffensive with ease from the directions of Dom to retake Salzburg. We would lose everything we had gained so far. However, with the capture of Dom, there will be no need to take Thornburg. It would be too late to attack anyway. Rumburg would either reinforce their southern defenses or the Queen would come to her senses and flee the capital. Even if we manage to capture Thornburg without their Queen, we won't be able to hold it during the winter. Our supply lines will be too stretched out for that. However, with 2 of their largest cities in our hand, we can lay out a defensive line, especially around Dom. They took it from Agnolia because of the oil fields surrounding it. Huh. Oil fields, you say? Their industrial sector has since heavily relied on them. With their oil supply cut, they won't have the fuel for their huge war machine, and their economy will slowly collapse. We will be effectively choking them until they capitulate. But we have to consider the defenses in and around the city of Dom. Ever since they took it from Magnolia, they have been building up fortifications in case of an Agnolian attempt to retake the city. Furthermore, due to the length of the operation to take Salzburg, they would come to the realization that Dom is our next target. There is no guarantee that we can take a well-reinforced and fortified city while holding the line at the western and the northern fronts. It's the best option though. Your opinion, Colonel? Without sufficient production capacity or supplies to be produced through trade, our chances of victory seem slim. Your decision, Mr. President? We'll attack Dom and lay out a defensive line. Let them come and get us. You're wasting an opportunity to end this war once and for all, Mr. President. It is decided, Joseph. Very well, I will add it to our battle plan. Now, let us decide on our allies' movements during this phase. Magnolia will probably still be struggling to take Dom at this point. And that, gentlemen, is our plan against Rumburg. We only have one chance at victory. What about deciding the allies? Nope? Okay. If we falter at any point during this war, it will be the end of Swordsland as we know it. Mr. President, we will need your executive order to mobilize the forces. Joseph handed me the order and waited for me to sign the document. Its title was Operation Fallen Crown. Sign off on it. That makes it official then. He turned to the generals in the room. We have work to do. Get back to your posts immediately. The generals saluted and the war room dispersed to begin the preparations. Only 3 people were left in the room, me, David, and the colonel. David approached me. Win or lose, this will be my last great contribution to my country. Let's protect our republic, Anton. I will continue to do so until my last breath, David. David gave me a tired smile. He warmly shook my hand before moving toward the door. The colonel and I turned to face each other. Thank you, Colonel, for being here. Let's be diplomatic. Where else would I be? A good leader is always there for his country in times of need. Let's hope that the next time we meet, it will be under a Swedish flag in Salzburg. When we win, I will personally invite you to our supper in Thornburg. Sol saluted me and then headed for the door. I stood there alone in the war room. Okay, I was expecting Sol to try and coup me, and that might still happen. I picked up one of the little metal tokens on it and turned it over in my hand. It represented thousands of men who were willing to die for this country, for me. I hoped that I would not let them down. Collection item unlocked. Headphones. Are these things that show up on the table? Doesn't seem like. Okay. So we will go Krimsrad, Salzburg, and then circle east to help Agnolia take Dom. Sounds like a plan. Proclamation of war. So it's official. Agnolia prepares to assault Dom, but a significant portion of the country's forces stayed behind. Volgzon urges calm. So hopefully that means they're not gonna make a move against Agnolia. Lesbia urges calm. Nationwide mobilization order. Time to go and defend democracy. But that will be it for this episode. Thank you all very much for watching. As always, I have been Pope. Please do remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you all next time.